Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Pure Dracula, and welcome to this week's art and illustration recap, where I talk about the art that I've been making this week, primarily drawing. What was the most recent thing I drew? Well, my eyebrows right before going on on camera just now. I was like, I think I should draw them in. Of course, that doesn't really count as art. But anyways, what have I been up to this week? Well, we're kind of talking about things that are drawing was sort of arty, whatever, but not actually art per se. So I think I mentioned on the last video that I was doing the photo booth for an event at my church. So let's have a quick look because I did film a little video when I finished that. So what we've got going on, it's all like a gold and white kind of theme. I did make the sign. We had tried to print one out, but I couldn't make it look good because if it was big enough, it would be between different pieces of paper, and then it was going to look awful. So I did print it out, and then I taped it correctly and put it on my light box. And this is just a giant sheet of, I think it's actually just big drawing paper from Michael's, the cheap, their Art Loft brand. And as you can see, I've got streamers, I've got glitter tool. Note for, public service announcement, if you're going to wrap glitter tool around the top of a photo booth like this, wear your sunglasses or your reading glasses or something when you do that, because it's all going to rain down and get in your eyeballs, and it sucks. Anyways, I also made the dove out of, that's just like matte board that I drew and cut out and put a little gold acrylic paint marker edging on it. And most of the stuff just came from the dollar store, like Michael's on clearance and whatnot. So it's pretty much all stuff that we can reuse as well, which is helpful. So, and the sign I was starting to say, so I did put on the light box. I traced over the letters using black acrylic marker and gave them each a little line of gold, and then yeah, a lot of streamers and whatnot. Pretty much everything I was able to save so that we can reuse it again for next year's communion, confirmation, get-together. So there is that, and let's switch back over. So that was one of my activities, and then of course I also had to take the whole thing apart on Monday or Tuesday, I believe, and then organize all the little bits and bobs in our hospitality photo booth tote so that my life will be easier next time. But anyways, that was one of the fun things. It's kind of fun I find, to do projects like that that are outside of my normal wheelhouse. It's a different way of creative problem solving. Does it actually feed in and improve my actual art? I don't know, probably not, but it's fun and it helps out. So anyways, let's move on. Questions and comments, if any. These will be from live streams on my main channel, Pura Draculea. It should be linked below in the description. And I usually do like a collaborator thing. So, whoa. There we have it. The document camera is already misbehaving and something got knocked off the desk. Anyways, whatever. It's that kind of a day today already. But I had somebody ask, actually, I don't think, maybe it was on a live stream. It might have been on a comment after the live stream was posted, like a day after kind of comment, not in the chat. But somebody was asking, do I color my work? With kind of, I guess, the follow-up question to that would be, why do I work so much in black and white? Now, I love color. I mean, this is one of the least colorful shirts I own. We have some tropical stuff going on, even though it's white. My house, you can see the walls, right? Actually, no, you can't. But you can see some of my fabric choices in behind and whatnot. I love color. So it may seem strange that, 4 nights of the week, my live streams are black and white. But the reason for that, there is a reason for that. And the reason, I guess there's a couple. One is stylistic. For the graphic novels, I'm kind of working, I guess, in the kind of alternate or alternative comics. I don't want to go so far as to say underground comics, because that sounds like I'm comparing myself to like Crumb and, all these legendary artists. So I'm not doing that, but I am working in kind of the, the mutant offset of that. And my background, a lot of my influences are newspaper funnies. And I realize nowadays the newspaper comics often do have color, but it used to always be that the weekly ones were black and white. Alternative comics, often black and white. A lot of that has to do with printing costs, both back in the day and now. I will be self-publishing a lot of, most of my, well, at this point I'm self-publishing all of my work, but most of it then, in order to try and keep costs low for the end consumer or the end reader, I'm working black and white for that reason. I also, because I'm working on making coloring books, well, that's of course black and white because somebody else is going to make their color choices when they buy it and color it in. And there is kind of a bit of a moodiness, a grittiness to the black and white, especially with stuff like Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat. Like, yeah, sure, you could do Ricky B. Goes to Sea. If I wasn't concerned about the printing costs, yes, I could do that in full color, but it's going to have a different vibe than the black and white is kind of a very classic. It lends itself towards kind of a gritty ickiness. Not that all black and white is icky. That's not what I mean. But like, because Ricky's in a punk rock world and, hey, he's a rat. It's kind of, I think the black and white lends itself to that more. Although, of course, certainly if you do go full color, that can have that can impact on your narrative and how your story is interpreted. And sometimes you want that. So lots of reasons. The Noah's Archipelago books, like I should be more specific. The Noah's Archipelago comic collection books, like collections of the comics that were the webcomic. The webcomic was always in full color, and the books, like I tried to go like, can I do this on the cheap and make it black and white? And they all looked like crap. So, or I had to go right to the line work. And anyways, I liked using the color on that. So those will be printed in full color because the original work was full color, but then I'm doing other Noah stuff that will be black and white. So anyways, that's the reason. Yes, I do color my work. I mean, I also do acrylic painting, and that's, eyeball melting full color. I don't do a lot of it because, well, for a lot of reasons, storage space, galleries are kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some galleries that I like and whatnot, but I don't have gallery representation and organizing shows and whatnot. That's just not my priority at the moment. So black and white is simpler, it's punchier, and yes, for the almighty dollar, it's a lot cheaper, which then means that I'll be able to price some of the graphic novels and the coloring books at a much lower price point. And, there are definitely people who will love color and they'll be happy to pay, like the Noah book is probably going to be $30 Canadian. I realize obviously American, that's, I don't know what the exchange is now. It's obviously less than that American, but that feels like, whoa, that's an expensive comic book in Canadian dollars. But then I'll offset that because I will have other Noah stuff that's going to be cheaper. So anyways, that's a whole blathering explanation about my work being black and white in color. So moving on, we haven't done haul in a while. Now, I do actually have a little bit of haul, and it's, for once, it's not art supplies. I mean, yeah, I bought some pens and whatnot, but I'm not going to do a whole thing going like, look, I bought 3 more of these ones because I ran out of ink, or like whatever. But I do have 3 graphic novels actually that I picked up recently. So let's switch to the document camera, this guy, and we'll have a look at what I got. So I had done a little Googling and Reddit searching, looking for graphic novels that are funny. Because a lot of them now, they're either, like superhero adventure stuff, or they're like fantasy adventure. One of these is one of those. Or they're like my life sucks. It's a horrible way to say it. But, like memoir stuff, might be processing bad things that have happened or whatever. But I'm kind of like, I like books that are funny. And I wanted something funny to read that was in my genre, or in my medium. So I did some searching and I found some recommendations. So we're going to go through them. And just for ease of reading, let's look one by one. So one of the things I saw a couple people on this one particular Reddit thread singing the praises of is, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Kosuke Uono? Uno? I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. I did not, the whole like learn Japanese thing kind of passed me by, much as I love Japanese arts and culture. I just always kind of assumed like I am too stupid to learn how to read that. So I didn't even try. So my attempts at pronunciation are horrible. I get that. I think I've talked before that I am very bad with languages in general, even if they're in letters that I can make out. But anyways, this one is the first book of this series, The Way of the House Husband, came highly recommended. And if I understand correctly, I've flipped through it, but I have not had a chance to actually read it yet. But we see on the back cover, he was the fiercest member of the Yakuza, a man who left countless underworld legends in his wake. They called him the Immortal Dragon, but one day he walked away from it all to travel another path, the path of the house husband. The curtain rises on this cozy Yakuza comedy. So I saw that and I thought, oh, that sounds like fun. The art is amazing, obviously. And I figured that would be kind of an interesting thing to mine also with one of my main characters, Noah Thorson from Noah's Archipelago, being a house husband, that might have something where Noah's reading this book and, finding inspiration in it. Although Noah, of course, has never been in the Yakuza or anything else along those lines. So anyways, looking forward to getting in through this. And I understand, I know it's a series, so I know there's several books. I'm not sure offhand how many books there are. So yeah, that is, well, I'm going to say the first, but they were all in one Amazon order, so they all came in the same box. But The Way of the House Husband, first thing on the haul today. Another one that was highly recommended, and several people in a few different Reddit threads and whatnot talked about this book, Four Kids Walk into a Bank. And a torrid tale of child crime, full color, but also not self-published. This is Black Mass Studios. Who did I don't know what company it is, but definitely somebody's paying for printing costs. I don't think it was that expensive, which is another thing I have to keep in mind too, is that would I go like, oh, I would think that was too expensive if I charged that for my stuff. But then the same price, I might look and go, well, if it's highly reviewed and it looks funny and it's supposed to be funny and it looks cool and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, I'll pay that. And I have to remember that other people may look and go like, okay, $30 ain't bad. It's independent and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, I have not, of course, had a chance to start reading this one either, but I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, this was one that came up very frequently when people were talking about graphic novels that were really funny. So looking forward to that. And the one that I have started reading, I Hate Fairyland. And this is the first book. Again, this is a series. I think Four Kids Walk into a Bank is a one-off story, but I could be wrong there. But anyways, is the tale of Gertrude, who is a little girl who wishes to go to a magical land away from boring reality. And once she gets there, she's stuck there until she finds a key. And yeah, she's at the point where am I? I'm a little more than halfway through. Now this just arrived on Tuesday, so just a couple days ago. at the point of the story happening, she's been trapped in fairyland for 27 years, and she is just completely over it. So, yeah, and again, full color, incredible artwork, and definitely funny as well. So I am quite enjoying this one so far, and we would certainly be ordering more in the series. So let's go back to my main camera. And yeah, so that's our haul. Now, finishes. Well, I had the photo booth video initially listed in my notes under finishes, but it really isn't. I mean, it was finished in the sense of done and whatnot, but you can possibly hear me shuffling papers underneath. So the next thing is, okay, so people who've seen a few of my recaps may be aware that I'm working on a coloring book. Noah's Archipelago is the, I guess, IP or the world that I'm working on with that coloring book, and it's the A to Z of Noah's job history. So that's what I would do on my Thursday night streams. Now, I've been drawing those on Bristol board. It's smooth Bristol board, but it occurred to me, number one, regular viewers of my live streams may have heard me whining and bitching about smooth Bristol board isn't as good as it used to be, and it's not. But also, I use that when I'm working with like a dip pen and ink, you know, like that kind of pen and ink. And it sometimes gets scratched up and blah, 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 blah. I was like, well, I have a hoard of Bristol board. Maybe I can keep that for the graphic novels. And do I really need a thick, heavy paper like that if I'm for the coloring books where I'm just using, you know, liner pens, etc. So I decided to experiment with a few different papers. So we are going to look at those now. So this is the first one, and this is a Strathmore yellow drawing pad. I have a bunch of these that I have added to my hoard over the years. It's 9 by 12, so it's the same size as the Bristol board. And I don't know, the fine notes I have up here probably don't show up in focus. But anyways, I tried a few different pens. So this is Myles. And like, I don't mind it, but I'm going to bring the document camera down and hopefully get a good look. I don't know how well that shows up on the camera, but some of the pens, it does have a little bit of what they call a tooth. It's not going to show up on camera. I'd have to have like a light angled from the side or whatnot. And, you know, but there's just enough that some of these pens kind of, it breaks up the lines and it makes them a little jagged. And I was kind of like, it's kind of not ideal. Obviously, I can fix that in Photoshop later, or I can go over it a couple times, but not ideal. This paper, though, I've used it for stuff where I'm like doing marker art. Not so much alcohol markers because they tend to like splooch out quite a lot, but if I'm using like regular markers or pencil crayons, this paper is great. But anyway, so I went and I grabbed a couple different other kinds of paper sketch pads. So this is Strathmore, and it's Strathmore Sketch. I was going to say if I grabbed a sample, but the sample is in a stack of sketchbooks holding up my document camera, so we won't do that. But it is what they call a fine tooth surface. It's not, so it's a lot smoother. Also, it depends where you buy it, but one of the major chain grocery stores in Canada, the location in my town, actually, they have like a stationary aisle, and they have these sketchbooks. There are, I don't know, like 100. Oh, wait a minute. I do have one off to the side. So it's this kind, right? So it's 100 sheets, and at the grocery, if I went to Michael's, this is like $23, which is still not bad for the amount of sheets you get. And if you have like the 30 or 40% off coupon, then obviously it's way better. Except the grocery store, Superstore, Real Canadian Superstore of all places, has those books and they're $13. So it's like, okay, that makes it the cheapest paper, and it is the smoothest, and it's the whitest, which, not that that matters, because you actually know it's not the whitest. It does have a slight cream color, which probably doesn't pick up on camera. But anyways, I did this test drawing of our friend Ricky B, the rock and roll rat, thinking to himself that modeling for the cartoonist sure beats working. Again, I tested various pen sizes. I have a couple areas where the line broke up because I was like lifting up with my hand, you know, like whoosh, whatever. But when I was holding it down, there's not enough tooth on the paper to break up the line, so the edges are pretty crisp. Anyways, and it's the cheapest. I think this is going to be the winner for future coloring page projects. Coloring book projects. And then, but I did test out also the Canson XL drawing, like the lime green. I'm a sucker for lime green. I had an iguana for 10 years. She brainwashed me into that, I think. But also, it is fairly smooth. It's got more tooth than the other one does, but less than the first one does. Doesn't seem to affect, well, there's a little bit of line jaggedness if you look really closely at the edges. So anyways, as a backup, this works, but the Staedtler 400 series fine tooth surface is what I'm going to be using for coloring page projects going into the future. Let me just switch back. So that was something I was working on. Planning and whatnot. And now let's start with our main projects. So on Friday, when we were streaming Ricky B, the Rock and Roll Rat, we got 3 pages done from Ricky B Goes to Sea. The first was like, let me actually pull that down so it's kind of all in the one. This was part of the, I'm talking about it, it's not on camera yet. I have to remember in OBS I have to do the burst out to switch to the next, anyways, whatever. So this ad, because the B plot in Ricky B Goes to Sea is about intrusive ads and whatnot. So Ricky being at Darren's Custom Cars, that's his cousin Darren's body shop. Then we had things interrupted with an ad for Darren's business. You know how they tend to note sometimes, depending on your privacy settings and whatnot, you'll get like Facebook ads on your phone for like the business that you're sitting in having coffee with your friend, or like the thing, like the shop next door or whatever, based on location. Anyways, so it's a little bit like that. Darren's Custom Cars, every chick loves a custom, and it looks like Ricky's inability to spell runs in the family. As featured in Ratmobile magazine, custom mods and hot rods, and then a note, this is a smudge they'll have to fix in Photoshop because my hand went like that. FYI, it'll be ready when it's effing ready. So let me bring that back a little bit so we don't get as much glare. I mean, it is kind of a thing with, especially laying on India ink pretty thick, it does still have a bit of a sheen to it, so you get a little bit of glare. So if I lift up like that, you can see. Anyways, so that is that. The photo is kind of bastardized from a reference photo I took at one of the events from my local car club. You know, they have like show and shines that are open up to the public, so you can go and look at all the hot rods and the muscle cars and all that sort of stuff. So this was a hot rod that somebody had. I did modify it because I wanted like higher seat backs, whereas the actual car, the back seat of the car, would be kind of like bra band height for women, but you know, like the height of your ribs, mid back below your shoulder blades. So I did give it higher seats, and I also know absolutely nothing about engines, so I just kind of threw in a few details. But anyways, I love the hood ornament, which is a middle finger. So there was that, those 2 pages, and then we got back to the story. Yeah, let me again make sure. Always trying to make sure things are in focus. So Darren is talking. You know what? Maybe I'll just bring this down so we can actually see things. So Darren asked Ricky, "Does your mama know you're going to sea?" And Ricky has not told Mama Rat because Mama Rat will think that Ricky is going to be eaten by a mercat. And well, Darren explains they're not real, but Ricky is annoyed and just wants to know if Darren can build the thing. We are going to come back to this in a little bit. In fact, I'm filming this on Friday afternoon, so tonight I have the next page that follows from this one with Darren and Ricky, and then we have a little sidetrack to Ricky's boss and that side plot. So we will be hopefully we should get 3 pages done, no problem tonight. So we are moving along on Ricky B Goes to Sea. And then our next stream after that was Monday, and that was Myles Maarav's Pursuit of Happiness. And so we've been going through the alphabet with Myles, and we are now up to X. And we had a couple pages for that, and these I will need to bring up. One of them was X-ray specs. And by the look on Myles's face, it appears that no, he's not able to see any see-through clothing or anything. Had a whole thing where I was doing some research on X-ray specs and how they work and whatnot. So I talked about that during the stream. And Myles, I'm thinking this wasn't that Myles just bought these things. Because after all, he's 28 and he's seen real boobies. Why would he care about that? But I can see him like going through some of his old stuff from when he was a kid or getting into his early teens and finding his X-ray specs and being infuriated yet again that they don't actually work the way that he thought, that he was led to believe that they worked, and therefore he wasted his money and he was all pissed. So there was that. And then Myles takes out his frustration on his xylophone. Anyway, so I was talking on this stream about how I used to rent a xylophone from Long McQuaid and kind of miss it, but don't want to spend the money. And don't really have the space. But anyways, this part is a little more accurate for the spacing. That's way too big of a gap. But anyways, whatever. Also, Myles, when you're actually playing, you're kind of being light on the touch. Some people have like a mallet, kind of like this. Or if you're doing like, say, the xylophone version of power chords, you kind of have them spaced, so you just do that. Some people absolutely do have the control to play 4 different, in the same then on this hand, so they're getting like 4 notes at a time. And some people, I've seen people who were really good at it who could have more very complex stuff. So what Myles is doing is more like taiko drumming, and that is definitely not how you approach a xylophone. Although I guess if it's your xylophone, have at it, but you're going to hurt it. Anyways, so that was Myles. We've got this coming week Y and then Z. And then we're going to put Myles away for a little bit and work on a different project that involves Myles and Ricky on Monday nights, because this book is going to have short stories that go with the illustrations, but I did the illustrations first. So now I have to go and write the short stories, and then we will probably come back and add more illustrations once I know what the stories are going to be. But anyways, we will be taking a break from Myles Maarav's Pursuit of Happiness after, I guess, come July. So there we go. And then on Tuesday, where is my Noah stuff? using studio mode in OBS, and now I have to always think about that. Actually have to double click to switch. So here we have the Tuesday night stream. Now this was for the Noah's Archipelago Book of Days. So it was going to be a 2027 calendar, and then I thought, why don't I'd rather make a bigger project that's more evergreen. So it's going to be the Book of Days. So this is an October illustration, of course, with Noah and Ursula going trick-or-treating. And then what it'll be is each of those months that was going to be for the calendar will be like a chapter heading. And then, the page, that would be the left page, and then the right page will start the October section, right? Anyways, and what's happening here is Ursula has done a bait and switch. She has told her father that she was going to go as a dairy farmer, and she needed a moo cow to go with them so that people would know what kind of farmer she was dressed up as. So Noah gets dressed up as a cow, and then at the last minute, surprise, she's actually wanting to be a Roman charioteer, and the cow has to pull her because she is not walking all over the neighborhood to get her candy, okay? Anyways, so that's the basis of that. So what happened on Tuesday, the stream was all messed up. And if you go to my main channel, there's actually 2 Tuesday streams, Trick or Moo Part 1 and Trick or Moo Part 2. So I had a few people in the chat and all that, and I'm talking away. And normally, okay, so you see where my document camera is. This is where my phone is on this other arm. It's usually right about here when I'm streaming. So I monitor the chat on my laptop over there, and then the phone is here aimed down. I'm going to be switching, that's not going to be going on much longer. On Wednesdays with Zommel the Destroyer, which we didn't have a Zommel stream this week because I had to, well, we'll talk about that. I had a meeting, like a AGM kind of event at my church, so I was there instead. I have some doodles that I did during that. We'll get to that in Doodlezone, but I didn't have a Zommel stream. But, the Zommel streams now have this kind of a setup with OBS. So they're horizontal and whatnot. OBS, right now I'm doing it as a recording, not as a live stream. But when I'm streaming, there will be a thing that will tell me like stream health and whatnot. So if it glitches out, like I kind of know immediately. But on Tuesday, all I know is the chat is sudden, like nobody's talking in the chat. And then I look and I also monitor to see what my camera is seeing. I do that in the laptop. And that's just suddenly frozen. And it's got like the spinning wheel. I thought, it's the laptop, stupid, whatever. Because I looked at my phone, and my phone, I was still streaming, but I had 0 people watching. That is weird, but, people go in and out. People are busy, etc. So, and I can't really see it, but I kind of, every so often would look up, and I'd be able to see it still said 0. But I was still streaming everything, right? So I carry on. I'm like, okay, that's weird, whatever. Okay, it's a slow night. People are bored. People, whatever. Suddenly, and I start streaming at 6:30 p.m. So at around about 8 p.m., suddenly, because I could see my phone in the corner, like in my peripheral vision, I'm looking down here, but I can still sort of see that. And suddenly, instead of showing me this drawing, like what's on camera, I have this black screen that YouTube shows you at the end of a stream telling you how many people were watching. I'm like, that's weird. I didn't hit end stream. And then I'd look, and suddenly I don't have the spinning wheel of death on my laptop anymore. I have the recommended videos, that comes up when you finish watching a video. I'm like, okay, crap, right? So that's fine. It looks like it's saving the stream. And I was, I wasn't done the drawing yet, so I just quickly, hurriedly start a new stream on my phone. forget to make it public. So again, I had 0 people watching. But in that case, like, anyways. So I finished the drawing, and then I go and I look, and so it stopped streaming as far as I understood at 8 o'clock. It's an hour and a half long stream, but the first part only saved 32 minutes. And then my second part was like 32 or 35 minutes or whatever. So there's an hour in the middle of these 2 streams that's missing, and I don't know what happened. I did see on Reddit that a couple other people have posted about having similar problems in the last couple months, so I don't know. But anyways, all the more reason to switch over to using OBS on my streams, which is going to be what's going to be happening. So on the Tuesdays, this is October, we've got November next week and December the week after. So by the end of June, we are done. Again, this is a phase 1, kind of like with Myles, because then I'll have those big full color chapter drawings, and then I got to write the book, talk about which days and observances and all this, and write some little anecdotes, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of stuff I got to do. And then I will come back and I'll do more illustrations. So if it's like, I don't know, National Peach Cobbler Day, I may have a little cartoon that I draw of Noah making peach cobbler. I stick it in. So, so it's not just where there's 12 full color illustrations and the rest is all text. Anyways, so that's just all to say that if anybody who was watching the stream catches this recap video, that's what happened, man. I don't know what happened, but I guess for other people, it must have just, boop, the stream just went away because nobody came back in that missing hour. That I know of, that just vanished. And yeah, I don't know. So anyways, we do have a full color illustration of Noah and Ursula. And I now have a new thing to be paranoid about when I'm streaming live. But definitely with both Myles, like the Monday streams and the Tuesday streams, once I finish these 2 projects, the current phases, I'm going to then be streaming on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all horizontally with OBS, the way I've been doing the last couple of weeks with Soma the Destroyer. Especially because those projects going forward, like this is still a very vertical thing, so that's why I've been doing it with the phone. But going for, the next projects I'm going to be doing, the format isn't as strict. So, but even if I was streaming vertical, I mean, I can do something like, let me switch out. Obviously, there's, I could certainly be like work on this part of the drawing and then just shift it up as I complete, right? And then at the very end, pull the camera up to give the full view, right? Like I can definitely do that. So let's go back to multi. So that's going to be going forward, that I'm going to be switching at least those 3 days to a horizontal, because then I can have a little bit more for stream monitoring and knowing what's going out. Whereas when it's on my phone, like it's like I said, it's there and you don't have as many controls. You can't read the chat as well. Anyways, there's the whole thing. So that will be a change coming in July for the Monday and Tuesday streams when we finish up this project. As I said, Wednesday, there wasn't a Zomo stream because I had the parish AGM meeting. So let's then look at Thursday, also Noah. So we work on the Noah's Archipelago coloring book project, the A to Z of Noah's jobs. Let me try and get that a little. Come on, behave yourself, camera. Why is that there? I guess it wants to be a little bit weird on the angle. Anyways, so A to Z, the 2 jobs that we had this week were C for cake decorator, and I did some like heart type motifs on Noah's face. The background has cupcakes and sprinkles, and then lots of sprinkles on the cake. I kind of messed this up here where I thought initially that was like this part of Noah's forearm, and I thought, oh, I got the angle wrong, so they made it wider. And then I thought, no, I still have the angle wrong. And then suddenly later I remembered, oh yeah, that's the tip of the icing bag. So you're not even seeing Noah's forearm, you're seeing a big bag of icing there. So I will fix that in Photoshop, and then I'll add some swirling lines or something in it to make it distinct from that's his apron, that's his shirt, that's his hand. So cake decorator is one of them. And then the other was reindeer minder. A couple weeks ago, we had Noah doing like Christmas decorations at the mall and Christmas gift wrapping at the mall. Similarly, he at some point worked for one of those Christmas villages, you know, the outside market type things. Sometimes those places will have, you know, reindeer that you can have your photo taken with, and well, the reindeer's giving Noah a wedgie and isn't too impressed with him. So that's the other drawing I did. The cake decorator took like the vast majority of the stream. I did have a third one drawn because sometimes on these I get through 3 in a night, but the other one we didn't. So we will work on that next week. And that will be the time Noah was a movie extra. Now, we are going to go to a section I don't often have, which is previous finishes, although I will admit this one is not really a finish. It's a previous brainstorming. So I think when a while back I had, on the Thursday, I had extra time, so I quickly pulled out of my butt this drawing of Noah as a mime, and I think I remember saying that I had started a plan of a different version of Noah the mime, but I couldn't find the book, right? Well, I found it. And it even says on there, Noah coloring book underdrawings. So, and this, by the way, when I showed earlier with the drawing paper and the one that has too much of a tooth to it, this is the one that had too much of a tooth to it, because I have a whole bunch of these drawing books. I think at some point at Home Goods, they had them for like $7 each or something, so I grabbed like 5 of them. Anyways, now this is not going to be a finish, yeah. So this version, the black and white one that I did on stream, this is going to be scanned at high resolution, and that's what it's going to be in the book, other than I'm probably adding like a border or something like that. The idea was that I was going to figure out the patterning, and then I would pull these out and like put that on my light box, and then I would trace it onto, I don't know, vellum or something, and then do that on top. Which frankly, to trace every one of these lines is frankly a stupid way to do it. But at the time, this is probably a year or two, not 2 years ago, but a year and a half ago, when I was first starting to think about this coloring book thing and how could we do it with using the characters and whatnot. So this is a kind of an early prototype. And I kind of remember it. I mean, there are some things that are very similar. If I bring it down, I don't know if that shows up. Let's go full view. Yeah, I think you can cut, I don't know, you may be able to just barely make out that there's like a leaf pattern in his forearms. So when I had this version done, like I was doing it from memory of the red drawing, right? So we kind of have some things in common, like the swirling of the fingers. Some of the fingers have the bullseye type of thing. The nose is a little bit similar. And yes, Noah's eyes are supposed to be closed here, but, you know, it would depend. If you wanted to color it like he had his eyes rolled back in his head, obviously you can go right ahead. But anyways, I was kind of working from memory of this when I was doing that. But it was kind of fun to actually find it. Now, that's the only thing in the book. Yeah, so that was one of the earliest concepts. And, oh, I just I also just realized like these stripes having like the circle, the dots, is kind of what I ended up doing on the main drawing as well. So again, we can't really call this a previous finish, but a previous brainstorming that is related. So that was kind of fun because I do remember talking about it on stream, and I just realized. Okay, well this is okay, February 2025. We're gonna move. The next section is actually Doodlezone, so we will go with that. But I just realized at the very back, I have this doodle. Just call me 210 Myles. And Ricky thinking Myles lives in the land of denial, which is kind of correct. And that's from February of 2025. And it looks like I drew this in a meeting of my writers group that I don't go to the meetings anymore because, well, they happen on Thursday evenings and I am streaming. Oh, this is interesting. A lot of these I actually, some of these jobs I was brainstorming for Noah, some of them I ended up using like human statue and gift wrapper. Some of them, I wonder if some of these I copied from this book into a different book. And that's why I have them before I forgot, except pizza delivery isn't on my list. And juggler's not on my list. So I don't know. Some of them I think I remembered and then was able to reproduce in sketchbooking, and some of them I didn't. Anyways, moving on to Doodlezone. We already kind of started Doodlezone, but that wasn't one that I drew this week. That was one I drew a long time ago. So now this book, we're actually probably not going to have time to do it this afternoon, but I actually finished this sketchbook, which means it's time to film a sketchbook tour. I'll probably film it tomorrow, like Saturday evening, and maybe I'll be able to get it up, posted on Sunday. Maybe it'll be like Monday or Tuesday that it goes live. But I'll do a full flip through of this book at that point. We've seen some other stuff from here, but anyways, I'm looking for the new sketchbooks. Sketches. I did a couple. I know I showed that last week and probably the week before because it was done the week I filmed a couple weeks ago. So I think some of these I know were done this week. This one might have been done last week. Or no, June 6th. What day is it today? Today is the 12th. Pyrrha has to do math. No, actually, I think I did this after filming the last recap. So this is actually, I was talking about paper testing for future coloring book projects. Well, this is one of them. And it's going to be a Halloween theme one that I'm hoping to bang out pretty quickly. So I can have it for sale this fall. But it's going to be about trick-or-treating, and it's going to have both Noah and Ursula, like the Noah's Archipelago characters, and Ricky and Myles, and other characters from the Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rap world. And Myles, because he's short, even though he's 28, so he's too old to be going trick-or-treating, because he's short, he can get away with it. And as you can see, Ursula is not amused. Queen Ursula is not amused. The king versus the queen. Myles is dressed up as Elvis, hence the king. And, hey, if you pause there, you can read my handwriting. You can get the general gist of how the book is going to go. So anyways, they're at a door. She's yelling, "Hey, you're not a kid!" And he's telling the person with the candy, "Don't listen to her. She's crazy. I'm not a 28-year-old accountant with my own accountancy firm. I'm a third grader, just like her. Now gimme." So And then because Ursula's going as the queen, she wanted Noah dressed as her footman. So I looked up and I was like looking at these different websites that have like auctions of like antique textiles and stuff. Anyways, and they had like footman costumes from like some of the big wealthy either royal palaces like Hanover or whatnot, or like French country houses owned by wealthy people, aristocracy in the 1800s and whatnot. So anyways, I took some notes about typical a footman's livery: double-breasted coat or frock coat, gold trim, striped waistcoat, breeches, gold buttons. It does say powdered wig. I didn't make Noah wear a wig. Lace, like the cravat, cocked bicorn hat, lace cravat. Okay, so I wrote that twice. And then like these kind of shoes are based on like it's like a French footman's livery from the 1800s where the whole costume was for sale. And they did mention brightly colored. Now, this is kind of a little above and beyond the brightly colored. Because normally be like red and gold or like bright blue and gold or whatever. But, you know, Noah loves his bright color. So, and perhaps he's probably gotten Ruth to like sew him this costume over the years. Possibly found some things thrifting or whatnot, like his vest or whatever. But anyways, he's looking and going, those shoes are killing him. Hear ye, Queen Ursula bids ye trick or treat. And he's the one who has to carry the bag because it gets heavy after a while. So that was one of the cartoons I did. And then that's Noah's wife, Ruth, and Ursula, of course. And they have the same coloring, basically, other than Ursula has blue eyes that she inherited from Noah, and Ruth has green eyes that she got from her mom. So, but they have the same hair color and skin color and whatnot. And then Noah's Bad Hair Day. I have random stickers. I think I've said before in a new sketchbook, first thing I do is just go and slap random stickers throughout, just so that I have some pages that don't have like that. You know, I don't mind some where it's a blank spread or whatnot, but I kind of like having, sometimes it's easier if you have, now in this case it didn't matter, I didn't go off of it, but sometimes it's nice to kind of have something to bounce off of. So Noah's Bad Hair Day. That's a little like decoration bell sort of thing that I have on my fence in my yard. And we've got family portrait of the Thorsons, and then the baby, Valerie, so Ursula's little sister, sleeping and dreaming of being a ninja. And then there was some video I watched that had, it's like a guy doing like a how to sharpen a pencil, and it's like kind of a spoof, but I guess he won a bunch of like short film awards or some such. So I'm kind of loosely sketching him. And then this is kind of materials testing. So the base layer on all of these is like acrylic markers and a few different brands. And then going over either with different acrylic markers or pencil crayon or pen. So just kind of mucking around with it. And some of them, like this one, I don't know if it's actually acrylic because you notice it bled through. The other acrylic markers don't. This one also bled through to the back, and it says it's acrylic. Normally acrylic markers don't bleed, so I don't know. But anyways, and I drew Ursula over top with a Sharpie. That just reminded me of, oh, that could be like a kid's Christmas play tree costume thing. So, and then her little hands would be inside, like holding the thing on her. And then we had Noah, and then I drew some foxglove. And there's one of the random stickers. There's the original HomeSense price tag, $5.99. But anyways, so the last few pages, I was like, I'm so close to the finish. I'm just going to like plow through this week and get it all done. But I will do a full sketchbook tour of this soon. I don't want to promise that'll be up this weekend because maybe it won't be. I don't know. And then this book, we've seen this before. This is, in theory, my first thing in the morning cartoon book. Often doesn't happen. I did do a couple this week. So Saturday morning, I think I was going to fill these like honeycombs in. That's kind of like my, I don't know what the hell's going on face. I do not look like that. I think you can tell because you've seen me on video. I am not that skinny anymore. I don't know. When I draw myself the way I looked when I was 18. Although that's not even true because when I was 18, I had bleached blonde hair. I looked like Kelly Bundy. But, you know, the figure's kind of what I looked like at 18. And then this one from Sunday, starting better late than never, but better early than late. My to-do list. Obviously, I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And the pill, I don't currently fit into my pill shirt, but, you know, or my current pill shirt. I've had a couple of them over the years and they get worn out and trashed and I stop wearing them. But anyways, for some reason, it's just amusing to me to draw myself in a pill shirt. Public Image Limited, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols later band. And then, so I mentioned the parish AGM. So let me see if I can find, oh, I did actually bookmark. So I have a few drawings that I did this week. One of them from Wednesday was I went to Toastmasters. I usually can't get to Toastmasters because, you know, it ends right before I would be going live to stream Zommel the Destroyer, at least the local Toastmasters, and I just don't have the energy or the time and whatnot. So, but I did manage to get there this week because I was not streaming because I had the church thing at 7 p.m. So I just did a cartoon of Noah at the lectern, giving a speech. I guess I was starting to draw a speech bubble and then stopped for whatever reason. And then at the parish AGM, so they had a spread of sweets, which are great. So I just drew Noah and Ursula, where Noah's leaning over trying to get at the Nanaimo bars, and Noah's insisting she has to eat her date square first. She doesn't want to eat a date square. Date square has fruit in it. That makes it health food, really. I mean, it's practically salad, you know. And then I'm on the, well, I showed you the photo booth. I'm on the hospitality committee, so I help with decorating for big events and stuff like that. And we are having a parish barbecue in August, and the theme is going to be like Western cowboy, something like that. So I just did a doodle of Noah wearing a cowboy hat that honestly doesn't sit on his head properly, and where he's kind of wearing a bit of a Western shirt, but I didn't have time to draw in the plaid. So, and you can see one of the things I need to do this week is we have like a weekly rosary, and there's discussion about making like a poster to put in the lobby of the church to remind people that it exists and they can come and they should. Anyways, so I guess next week's recap will have that. And then today, Catholic Women's League Reflection Day. So we had a few things. One, there was like this little game where it was like handed out and it had all these lines from different songs, and it was like fill in the blank and I only knew a handful of the songs because, you know, like I'm one of the younger members. So I was Noah looking confused, going, I don't know any of these tunes. Now, Noah sings in cover bands, so he really should know some of them. But anyways, and then we had one of the desserts on the potluck table was birthday cake left over from our priest's birthday earlier this week. Really good chocolate cake. I loved it. Anyway, so there's Ursula, who also loves chocolate cake. In love with this chocolate cake. And then we have a little drawing of Zommel. When I don't think I did this when I was doing Zommel as a comic, but later when I did Zommel as a podcast, it was kind of a running gag that whenever one of the humans was going on vacation to like Mexico or Belize or Aruba, anything like that, that Zommel would be handing them a list of different relatives, you know, distant cousins of Zommel that apparently owed Zommel money and the amounts. Like, you know, Sparky owes me $5. Another iguana, distant, iguana cousin owes Zalmo $2.75. And Zalmo would want the humans to collect, and of course they never did. And Zalmo would be all pissed off. And one of the, I think it was Mr. Heidel, at some point points out to Zalmo that trying to run like a mail order loan sharking business is really not an effective business strategy. And Zalmo told him to shut up because Zalmo didn't need any uppity chimp business advice or something like that. So anyways, one of my friends went on a humanitarian trip to Nicaragua and made a video about it. So while we were watching the video, this is the cartoon I drew with Zalmo wanting to know if my friend went and retrieved Zalmo's $5 from cousin Sparky. So this is like hot off the presses. This is the latest drawings I have done from an hour or so ago, an hour and a half ago. But that's as far as we got today. So let me just slide this in here. If you're enjoying my videos, subscribe, etc., both on this channel and on the main channel. So let me go to webcam only there. So this week upcoming, all 5 days for streaming. So we got Myles with Y on Monday night. Off the top of my head, I think Myles is, I don't know if he's actually going to buy a yacht, but he's definitely going to test drive one. And he's thinking on it. And Tuesday we will have the November drawing for the Noah's Archipelago Book of Days. Zalmo on Wednesday, we are finishing Zalmo's Secret Basement Lab, which means it is, well, we may actually already be finished the first Zalmo the Destroyer, well, the only Zalmo the Destroyer comic omnibus, because I think I said on my last Zalmo stream that I wasn't sure if I was going to use the Zalmo Secret Basement Lab stuff in that book or whether it would be a supplement to the next Zalmo book, which would be taking some of the podcast scripts when I was doing the Zalmo the Destroyer show and turning those into illustrated short stories, because there's a lot more about Zalmo's Secret Basement Lab in the podcast than there was in the comic. But anyways, we are doing a couple more drawings of Zalmo's Secret Basement Lab this Wednesday, and then after that we will be starting to do a new project, which will actually end up being like a reader magnet for the newsletter I need to launch. And that will be illustrating The World According to Zalmo, which was an hour-long podcast episode that I did in 2015. So I know it's like old content, but the drawings are going to be new. And that'll end up being, it'll also end up in one of the Zalmo books down the road. Thursday, more Noah's Archipelago coloring books, and Friday, of course, we're plugging along on Ricky B Goes to Sea. So that brings us to, where is my thing? Come on. There we go. Anyways, so thank you for watching, and we will see you again real soon. Bye for now.